Welcome to the Polly the Wog channel. This is Polly the Wog, and today we are going to do some wire stripping. I have got some oven and dryer cords, much like this big thick one here. You can see on the end it's got 4 strands inside. Usually 3 of them are coated. It looks like on this one, it looks like 3 are coated and 1 is not. But let's try out our new CrewWorks wire stripping machine here and see how well it does stripping this kind of thick cord, first to get this big thick outside casing off, and then we'll try to strip the individual wires on the inside without hopefully splintering too much of the copper. So the first thing we're going to have to do is change our wire guard on here to this much bigger one. So that's what we're going to do right now. Let's take this one off of here. There's a nice little handy little screws that just undo. Some of these wire stripping machines, these are, you need to use like an Allen key to get those on and off. So with our guard, you always want to use the guard. I've noticed on some of these wire stripping machine videos where people aren't using the guard, please use the guard. So we're going to put this on here. And you generally always want to feed your wire up into these wheels. I don't know if you can see the wheels here, but yeah, you always generally want it to go on an upwards angle. I'm just trying to guess on what is exactly our best position here. I think that's pretty good. Now, I know I'm definitely going to have to raise up the cutting blade a fair bit. I'll start raising that up. Then we'll grab our piece of wire over here. I'll just kind of try to stick that in there. I think we'll try it right about there and we'll see how this goes. Alright, so we're going to turn this on. Make sure to keep our fingers nice and clear and feed this in here, and let's see if this will cut it. Raising our blade a little more. Now, did that go all the way through? Yeah, I don't think that went all the way through, so we're going to have to tighten this down a little bit. Yeah, let's try feeding this in here one more time. There we go. I can see that we have successfully cut through our outer casing that time. Alright, so all 4 of our inner wires are coated on this particular cord. Usually the green ground wire is bare in many of these, but not this particular one. So we'll pull our wires out of there. Alright, so we've got these 4 wires now. I'm just going to untwist these and set them aside. And let's try another one of our oven and dryer cords and see how that goes. They're all slightly different sizes, so we'll probably need to keep adjusting the wheel here. So now this one here is just a little bit skinnier. So I imagine I'm going to have to tighten this down a little bit more. Let's try it right around there. Alright, we'll turn that on and feed this in here. Alright, we'll turn that off. And yep, we've successfully cut through the casing here once again. So we'll just pop this open. And you'll see on this one, we've got the 3 wires and the 1 bare ground wire that's already has no casing on it, so that's always nice. Well, it looks like it didn't quite cut through all the sections, but close enough that I can just pull the wire out. Alright, so we'll untwist these here, get our nice bare ground wire out of these. So I'm going to set these 3 aside for now. And we've got our nice bare piece of copper wire. So I'll just fold that up. There we are. Give it a little twisty twist. There we go. A nice clean piece of copper wire. At my scrapyard, they give me #1 copper red wire is the category that they classify it under. So I actually get #1 copper prices when I strip these oven and dryer cords, even though it is stranded wire that, you know, it's a little thicker than, you know, a lot of stranded wire, but not a lot. It's certainly not that 1/10 gauge. And I don't know, a lot of people would say that this is #2 wire, but I know for a fact, because I've sold it before at my scrapyard here in London, Ontario, that I can get #1 copper prices for this wire. So that's always good. At the end of the video, we will weigh up all of our wire and we will see exactly what we got from these 4 oven and dryer cords. Now we'll move on to our next oven and dryer cords. Those first 2 were pretty round. These ones got more of that rigid kind of bump in it. So I know it's going to cut into the wires underneath this first casing, but hopefully we won't cut too far into it. I might have to tighten it down a little bit, but let's just give it a shot and we'll see if it'll cut through this outer casing. Definitely cut through sections of it. I didn't cut all the way in all the pieces, but I can't quite peel it open. Slowly. Yeah, let's tighten it down just a teeny little bit. Try that again. All right. It's kind of mangled it up this time, but definitely cut through that outer casing. Yep, the rest of it just slid right out of there. So again, we got the 3 inner wires that were in there and our 1 bare ground wire. You can see how it definitely started to cut into some of these other wires. I hope I haven't splintered the other stranded wire in these too much. You know, it makes a real mess if you cut too deep with these automatic wire cutters. That's where sometimes I still prefer to use a knife to strip the wire that is stranded on the inside, because these automatic wire strippers can just splinter the heck out of your wire and it makes a real mess. So we'll set those 3 aside. We'll fold up our nice piece of copper ground wire here. You get more out of these oven and dryer cords than you would expect, really. And in my opinion, it's well worth stripping them for the amount of copper that's inside them, compared to just selling them as the whole individual cord at the lower price. It's like I said, I get #1 copper. I haven't looked it up at my yard recently, but I think it's just under $5 a pound Canadian right now for #1 copper. It's probably around the $4.80, $4.90 a pound. But yeah, again, at the end of the video, we'll weigh this all up. I'll look up the prices to see what it's currently going at, and we'll figure out exactly what we get for stripping 4 oven and dryer cords. So that's 3 down, for the outer casings at least. So I got 1 more. And this one is also bumpy, might be a little bigger than the last one. I think maybe I'll raise this just a little bit. All right, let's give it a shot. Okay, if you grab it, there it goes. Oh, got a little stuck. Just trying to give it a forceful hand here. Definitely was a little too tight. Definitely splintered some of my copper. I can already see it on the other side here. So yeah, I should have let up on that a little more. That was cutting way too deep. You can see how it's cut right into these wires on the inside. And yeah, I got a feeling I'm gonna have a handful of splintered wire when I go to strip these other wires. But I did successfully cut through the outer casing, no problem. So yeah, the wire stripping machine is definitely better for getting those outer casings off compared to, like, you know, just using an X-Acto knife type deal or a box cutter to just cut them off. It's always slow and time consuming, and you can see once you stick it in there, it generally feeds through pretty good. That last run I had a little too tight, so I had to kind of help it and pull it through. You can see how badly it cut into these wires here. So I know I've splintered some copper, but again, we'll set those aside for a moment. And let's fold up our ground wire. Give that a little twist. Alright, another nice clean piece of #1 copper wire. Alright, so I'm going to start with these 2 pieces of wire that from that very last one that was cut into pretty deeply in some sections, but you know, since it was all kind of spiraled, right, it's only like cut there, cut there, cut there. So I've still got to run this through, and we are going to have to adjust our wire stripping machine. All right, let's change the guard again now that we're done with all those big ones. I don't need this big guard or the big hole on here anymore. So we'll get rid of that guard plate, and we'll switch back to this one with an appropriate size opening. That's right, make sure the curve of the guard is not this way. Make sure it goes in so it's as close as possible to the cutting wheel itself. So generally like this, you'd go through a lower one and have it feeding up into the cutting wheels. And that generally works much, much better. And it keeps the wire from jumping out of place. And that should be good right about there. We gotta lower this down quite a bit. And feel it snag the wire, maybe just a little bit more. that seems pretty tight there. Alright, I'll let it off a little bit. Let's try it right there and see what happens here. Now, did that go all the way through? I don't think it did. No, that wasn't quite deep enough. I'll try it again. Still not low enough. Uh-oh. I can hear it, so I think I might have went a little too low. And it's probably cut into my wire. Yeah, I definitely cut cleanly through the casing that time, so that's not an issue. But I'm hoping I don't splinter the wire horribly. Yeah, I've splintered the wire horribly. See, that's where with these stranded wires, sometimes I think it's just easier still to just use a knife because it'll be a lot less messy. Might be a little bit more time consuming, but yeah, see, look how badly I've splintered this wire. So now this is going to do nothing but make a huge mess and be a big pain. So, yep. Alright, let me put my gloves on because this is going to get pokey with all these sharp little splinters. Alright, it's kind of like peeling off a Band-Aid at this point. You just got to peel this stuff out of here the best that you can. There's just so many splinters. Yeah, I would highly recommend not using a wire stripping machine on stranded wire because this is the mess you end up dealing with if you cut too deep into your wire. And I absolutely, as soon as I ran that wire through, I could hear it cutting into the copper, and I knew that this was going to be a horrible, horrible mess. And yes, that's what I have here, is a horrible, horrible mess. Well, that was a real splintery mess, but I kind of got that cleaned up a little bit. And yeah, we're going to strip the rest of these with a knife, with my little Swiss Army knife, and we'll see how much better that works for this kind of splintered wire. These things are great for solid wire, any kind of solid core wire, or to remove an outer casing like that. Wire stripper machines are pretty great. For splintered wire, they work, but you have to really fiddle with it for so long to get it just in the right spot that more often than not you're going to end up with a big mess like that. So the knife is just easier for this kind of wire. All right, I'm going to finish cleaning up. All right, we're going to get rid of this. I have kitty cats in the house, so the last thing I want are any of these little copper hairs to be left lying around because not good for the kitty cats. Alrighty, so I got my handy dandy Swiss Army knife. These things hardly ever go dull, so they make for really good little wire strippers, and it gives me the right angle and everything when I go to do it. So let's give it a shot. generally like to start in about the middle of the cord or so. And just angle it down on there. And just start pulling back ever so gently. Now this one has already been cut into when I took the outer casing off of, so it's kind of snagging here and there. Alright, let's see how this goes. If I don't sound too optimistic, it's because I'm not. I don't like how it cut deep into the stranded wire, so it just makes a real heck of a mess. It makes the wire that much harder to get out of the casing quickly and efficiently. Yeah, I've already got some splintered pieces falling off. Yeah. Gosh darn it. Still coming out in a splintered mess. It's not from my knife. It was definitely from the wire stripping machine cutting too deeply into that outer casing and right into this inner casing and right into the copper. So you see the casing's coming off, not a big issue. It's just that I've cut too far into the copper when I took that outer casing off. So again, leaves us with a nice splintered hunk of copper wire like that. Nobody really likes this wire all splintered. At least I don't. Scrapyard doesn't care. Let's try twisting it up. I like to leave a little loop on the end here because I generally thread it all onto one piece of copper to make, you know, a nice holder to hold all of this. Alright, well, it definitely wasn't as bad as the first one that I tried in the machine. That one was very badly splintered. This one was I would say medium badly splintered. So I know not all of my wires got that badly cut into, so let's try a piece that is not going to be all splintered like this on the inside. Alright, so we have another piece of wire here. It's not going to be splintered up on the inside. Let's see how this goes. Try it going the other way. The knife slips out every now and again, but it's not a big deal. It's at least not catching and splintering. Alrighty. I imagine this is going to go much cleaner. Alrighty. A little splinter. Not too bad. You know, that one's not too bad. There's a little bit of splintering on it, but overall, not bad at all compared to the other ones. I'll just twist that up. Look at that. One nice giant chunk of copper. Each one of these, if I had to hazard a guess, got to be about 3 ounces maybe. 2 ounces. I don't know. On average, I find these cords generally yield about a ½ pound of copper. So we'll see if that's true at the end of this video, because with 4 cords averaging about a ½ pound, you know, obviously they vary in length, so that's going to make a bit of a difference. They vary in thickness, makes a bit of a difference. That's why I say on average, you get about a ½ pound per cord. So we'll see if we have 2 pounds or more at the end. There we go, another nice little chunk of copper. So far the collection's adding up. I got those 3 clean copper ground wires that came out. And then this is all my stripped wires so far, so got a nice little handful of copper. All right, now on to the next one. There we go. I like to use the pliers to grab that casing and pull it down. Try to get it separated from the copper wire. There we are. And it just pulls right out of the casing. That one came out with relatively no splinters at all. All right. It's still more useful than a wire stripper sometimes. Now, if you're stripping that solid core wire, it's got that nice solid pieces of copper inside, a wire stripping machine is your best friend. I know most people won't take the time to strip this kind of stranded wire, but these oven and dryer cords, this is a fair bit thicker wire inside here, so I don't think there's that much, but it adds up. Like I said, on average about a half a pound per cord. So that means every 2 cords gives you about a pound of copper. And here in London, Ontario, I get just under $5 for that pound of copper. Another nice piece all done. So yeah, I know I've said it a few times, but if you're going to strip stranded wire, you probably want to do it all by hand. I probably shouldn't have even used it to strip off that outside casing because I cut a little too deeply and it cut into these wires on the inside. And now even stripping these by hand, they're all cut up. And it just creates a real mess. Not to mention all the stabby little pieces of copper. They even stab you through the gloves. Another nice piece of copper. Yeah, that's a nice little beefy chunk of copper. Alright, I got 2 more wires to strip. I'm going to do those up quickly. And then we're going to toss all of this onto the scale and see how much it weighs. So again, even though that was a difficult piece to strip, because the wire cutter machine had already cut too deeply into little pieces of this wire, but it didn't splinter again too badly because the stranded wire is a little bit thicker. So there we go, another nice big thick piece. So yeah, overall my conclusion for those wire stripping machines is they're fantastic, but for solid core wire only. Anything that is stranded, it'll work, but it's going to make one heck of a mess. So yeah, strip all your stranded wire by hand, and any of your solid core wire like the BX cables, Romex cables, any of those type of wires that come out of those, You got the nice solid piece of copper in the inside, and the wire stripping machine works fantastic. Another nice clean piece of copper wire. Alright, that was the last piece. One nice big piece of copper. Alright, let's clean up and see how much this weighs. Alright, so I got my scale here. I've got it all zeroed out. I've got it weighing on pounds and ounces. So let's see how much we have. This was just from our 4 cords, and we have 2 pounds, 6.7 ounces. And just hold that up and show that to you there. 2 pounds and 6.7 ounces. If I switch that over to pounds, 2.4 pounds of copper goodness. So that's it. I figured it averaged about 2 pounds, about a half a pound per cord. I actually got, instead of half a pound, which would be, 8 ounces. So I got about 9 ounces a cord on average. So just over an ounce over a half a pound a cord. And it gave me 2.4 pounds of copper. So at my yard, at $5 a pound, it might be 5 or 10 cents under that right now. It's probably about $4.90 a pound. But let's just round it up, say it was $5 a pound. So 2.4 pounds, that's going to be 10, 12, about at least $12 Canadian in copper. So is it worth it to cut off your oven and dryer cords and save them up and strip them for copper? I think so. It's 12 bucks worth of copper. Yeah, why not? But again, would have been faster and easier if I did that all by hand. Now in the next video, I am going to use that CrewWorks wire stripping machine, and I'm going to do all my solid core wire. I have a lot of very skinny little stuff, and I'm curious to see how well the machine will work with, you know, the little skinny wires that come out of like fluorescent light fixtures. You know, all that wiring in there is generally a solid core wire, but it's very small and skinny, right? So I have a bunch of stuff like that and some other thicker stuff. And yeah, in the next video, we'll see how the CrewWorks wire stripping machine works with that. But oven and dryer cords, do them by hand. Use a sharp knife. It'll be a lot faster and a lot easier. All right, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.